Well, if you're in the market for a TV or a monitor, you probably know that stores will try to sell you on how more is better. Bigger screens, high resolution, and increasingly more brightness. Indeed, Apple has recently announced an absurdly expensive $5,000 display and is touting the fact that it has 1600 nits of peak brightness. But why does brightness matter so much? And what the heck is a nit anyway? Well, if you ever tried to use a phone in direct sunlight where the screen couldn't get bright enough, then you know that having sufficient brightness is incredibly important if you want to make out details on the screen. Even if you're lying in complete darkness with your phone brightness turned all the way down to the minimum, can cause certain screen elements to be much harder to see than if you were to turn the brightness just a little bit up. But at the same time, why is brightness suddenly such a hot selling point? Now, like you probably don't have much problems making out what's happening on your run-of-the-mill TV set or monitor that you got on a Black Friday. So, what's going on is that visual fidelity on our displays has increased substantially, and manufacturers have sought other ways to enhance their viewing experience than simply cramming more pixels onto the screen or making your TVs and monitors bigger. And recently, displays with high dynamic range or HDR has promised noticeably better detail than devices without it. But the basic idea is that HDR capable displays attempt to show brighter brights and darker darks than the standard display, and HDR sets can also typically have a wider color gamut, all of which adds up to a crisper, more realistic image. But simply supporting HDR protocol may not be enough for you to tell a huge difference in picture quality. In order to bring out those sharper details and richer colors that HDR screens promise, they need to be able to hit certain amounts of brightness. This is where those nits come in. Nits is basically a measure of brightness commonly used for electronic displays. Many average TVs and monitors can only get up to a few hundred nits peak brightness. But for HDR content, the general baseline is that you want your display to have 1000 nits of peak brightness for true HDR. Now, 1000 nits is fairly bright, and you might even be uncomfortable with something that bright if you are sitting really close to your monitor, like you are gaming, for example. But the idea is that HDR TV, worth its salt, will only put out that much light in certain situations. That is when there's an image on the screen that needs additional illumination because certain parts of it feature bright colors. So, you probably won't need to worry about putting on a pair of sunglasses just before you enjoy a shiny new HDR display. And the higher peak brightness, the more versatility the screen will have to accurately reproduce more types of visual content. In fact, Sony demonstrated a 10,000 nit prototype 8K TV at the Consumer Electronics Show in 2018, which by all accounts delivered fantastic looking results because of the huge variety of scenes it could faithfully display. And because under normal circumstances your screens only need to get bright on tiny areas or quick flashes, there's even an interest in going even higher, especially for settings like movie theaters. But how much is too much? I mean, Apple's pricey new monitor claims 1000 nits of typical brightness, meaning that's what you'll usually be exposed to as opposed to being a maximum that only activates when necessary. Well, the answer is it really depends on how you perceive the experience. If you're checking out a high-end display at your local big box stores and it's so bright that your eyes feel uncomfortable, and of course you might want to pass on it. But I would say that there's nothing wrong in getting the highest nit display that your eyes and your wallet can handle, while making sure you're not spending way too much just to get the highest nit count that you can get on the market today, as 1000 nit peak brightness should look good enough to satisfy most people. Just in case you were wondering, the sun is about 1.6 billion nits, so you definitely don't want to go that high. You'll hurt your eyes. Speaking of places you should go is this channel. So hit the like button and also don't forget to subscribe.